So to begin this tutorial, I've already drafted my full bodice pattern starting from the shoulder line, and I've also created my chest line. Of course, I know you know how to do this if you have been following us on this channel. Our bust point, our under bust point. This is the waistline. I drafted everything together with my skirts or lower piece. This is the upper hip and the lower hip for the skirt. Okay, the upper hip, and what I have here is the knee line. So I just drafted a full scale pattern and my full length. So this is what we are going to use for the construction of this Victorian corset gown with yoke. So here is my center front. So I'm drafting on a quarter because the center front is going to be on fold. So whatever you are cutting here, you are going to have it on fold. So the first thing we want to do, usually we have a method of creating our bust here, okay, and we'll be having the first thing we normally do, which is the shoulder seam line. What I have here is my natural neckline, which you can get by dividing your bust circumference by 12. So from here to here, I'm going to find the shoulder midline. So once I've gotten the shoulder midline, next I will do is to connect it to my bust point. So this is my bust point. I'll connect it to that point. So next I'm going to do is to divide my bust points and under busts. That is to get the difference between bust point and under bust. And I'm going to take the circumferences, as you can see. So I'm taking it all around, as you can see right here. I'm taking it all around. So what I'm creating is the area at which my bust is going to sit. So of course you see the bust is sitting on this area, and it's going to serve as a guide for me right now. So the next thing we want to do now, I want to complete what I have on my dart. The dart position, I took my my bust pan, that is nipple to nipple divide by 2. This is half of it for my dart leg. I'll come over here and I'll repeat the same nipple to nipple. So from the hip line, I'll just come up by 2 inches, okay, and create my dart. So from here, I'm going to draw or create my dart, and I'll bring it back to this point for a full gown. So here is my full pattern, as you can see right here. So the next thing we want to do is to create the Basque effect on this gown. The back effect of this gown, I'm going to create it by coming down from the waistline by 1 inch. Okay, so if I come down from the waistline by 1 inch, I'll come down on the center front line by 5 inches. That is what I'm going to use to create these backs. Then with my straight ruler, I'll just connect it to that 1 inch. I've created the Bask, as you can see. So next we want to do now is to create the neckline. We have a neckline right here, and to create that neckline, okay, before the neckline, please, we have I'll call it a plunge neckline. That is if you're using your mesh, illusion mesh, to create this plunge neckline. As it is there on the thumbnail, from the under bust, I will divide what I have on the line of under bust and the waistline. So line of under bust and waistline divided by 2. This is my mid point. And I'll come on the under bust point line. I'm going to take 1.5. So when I open it, I'll be having 3 inches opening on this bust point. So I'll just create the illusion up to that point I've marked, and then I'll come over to the neckline. On the bust point line, I'm going to take my bust radius. So as it is on the thumbnail, I'm using exactly my bust radius to create the neckline. So I'll place my pattern ruler and I'll allow my yoke to move into the, I'm allowing it to move into the armhole, so we don't have any need to. Okay, so what I want to do, because I actually need my ruler to sit well, let me just come up by 0.5 so the yoke does not sit on the bust directly. So if it comes out, my pattern ruler gives me exactly what I need. And I'll flip the ruler back to this point and I'm going to connect it. So I'm trying to position this ruler so it connects exactly for me. So if the big part does not work for you, you can still use the small part. You can even freehand it, provided you get exactly what you are looking for at that point. So you can even do a little freehand. So that is how we got the neckline right now. So then if you notice, there's a yoke by the upper part. So for that yoke, I'll just come in from the natural neckline by ½ inch and I'll just place my ruler straight this way. Okay, if I even place it this way straight, following the yoke, okay, you can also do that to get it, that neckline. So let me just follow what I have on the yoke, and wherever it terminates, that will be the neckline. So I actually does not want it to open too much. Okay, so another thing you can do is, if you want it not to open too much on this part, maybe the 0.5 inch, you can just place your ruler straight. Okay, so this is what I mean. If you don't want it to open too much, you can decide to place your ruler from that 0.5, or let me do 0 points from here. Let me just do 0.75 and put the ruler straight to the point of the illusion. I think it's better. Okay, so I think it's better. I'll take off what I have on this line. So our yoke line right now has changed from here, from this one to this one, the outer one. That means we closed up a little. So it's all your choice. If you want it to be open or closed, you know what to do from this explanation. So from here, I'll now come back with my yoke from here. Can you see? So I hope you are not confused with the so many lines. So everything runs accordingly. I think this is better. So there's another thing I want to do before we start contouring the neckline. I want to extend this shoulder from what I have on the thumbnail. There's an extension of our shoulder line. This shoulder line was extended a little bit by 1 inch and reconnected back. Okay, so I have it reconnected back this way, okay, to the 0.5 line. It's just a shoulder extension and returns back and blends back. Okay, so in other words, we'll be cutting an exaggerated shoulder, so to speak. That is if you want to. You still have your sleeve. When you sew your sleeve, everything fits in perfectly. Okay, so what this extension, when you are drafting the back, please extend it if you need it extended. But if you don't, you can go with what we have on the normal shoulder. All right, so that is that. And now I'm going to contour my over bust. So to contour the over bust, I'll just come in here. This is my midline. I'll come in by 0.75. I'll come out here by 0.75. And I'm going to connect to the bust point. I will also do the same. I will connect to the bust point. So after that, we'll go to the under bust for under bust contouring. So from the center front, I'm going to place my tape and I'm going to measure my under bust divide circumference. I have 8.75. What I have left, I'll put from the outer dart leg 0.25 and the inner dart leg the remaining. Okay, sorry, what we are doing here is a Victorian corset. Okay, so when we are creating corset, when contouring this, okay, we'll take the under bust circumference first, divide by 4, I mark. Whatever I have left here, I will share it into 2. So here I have 1.5, I'll share it into 2. So from here, I'll impute 0.75, which is half of 1.5, and from here, just share half. Okay, so your own calculation might not be the same. So just share half. So once you share half, you now bring in your pattern ruler from that half that you have shared. You come this way and you flip it back to this, and you come this way. So next is to connect your Victorian corset from that point to the end of the dart, and you come from that point to the end of the dart. So you can see what we have right there. And as it stands right now, we are done with this dress. So the next thing is, if you look at here, you can see we have an illusion. So this illusion line is all your choice and is all your design. So the depth of what you want from the natural neckline, you can measure it on your clients. Let me say I want the neckline to mesh to be at 3 inches. At that 3 inches, I'll simply place my ruler this way from that 3 inches, as you can see, and I'll blend it into that point. And by doing that, I've created the mesh. So I'm going to cut what I have on this pattern. So another thing I want to let you know is that we have an ostrich feathers design, which starts from the hip directly, and you have the ostrich feather design. So from the hip you can have, or you can come down from your hip. Let me say from your hip you can come down by 2 inches, so it's not too high on the hip, or let me do 3 inches. So 3 inches down from the hip, that is where your ostrich feathers will be sewn. Okay, so by the time you sew it, it comes down. If you want to cut it on the hip, by the time you sew it, you see. So it's all your choice. So you can just do whatever you want to do. So from here, I'll just cut out the parts of the ostrich feathers, and then I'll go in this way into the bust accommodation. I'll go into the exaggerated shoulder line. That is if you want to go through the exaggerated shoulder line. If you still want, you can go through the normal shoulder. And I'm going to cut from here into my neck line, as you can see. So I'll go to the center front and cut off the excess we don't need. So note that our center front is going to be on fold. Then I'm going to cut off my basque and set aside the lower parts. So this is what you'll be having on the lower back line. This will also be on fold. So I'll set it aside. Then we'll come over here for, let us cut the illusion. So what I have here is illusion mesh. Illusion mesh is also on fold. Okay, this is illusion yoke, which you use your mesh to sew. So I'll just cut from here, and I'm going to cut it straight. So we have 2 yoke here, a yoke in a yoke. This is the one you use your mesh, and from here, please don't be confused of the lines. You know the lines I made here. This is the yoke you are going to use the dress itself. So because this runs into the armhole, the neckline runs into the armhole, we are not replacing any darts. Of course you know that. So I'll keep this, and then I will now go over to cut the Victorian. This is how my corset is going to look like. I'll cut it here. Okay, then I'm going to close up my bust dart right away. So I will apply my adhesive to close up my bust dart, as you can see. So here I have my bust dart closed. So I have my corset. So now this is F1. So when you are sewing this dress, you can decide to make more boning lines for yourself, okay? But the boning lines you are going to create it right on the dress. So I might decide to come in here and create. You can see how I kept my ruler. There's no actual calculation. Okay, so what you can do is just come to the under bust line for this. You can divide what you have there by 2 and get the mid line. So that will serve as a guide for you. So place your ruler. Even if I place it safe, it does not give me what I want. So what I will do, I'll just come from here. I'll come out by 1.25. That is on the, you are not piecing or cutting this. Once you are done sewing the bustier Victorian corset, you can sew this on your, you can sew your boning, okay, to form your boning line. Then for here, you can also create as many boning lines as possible without cutting these pieces by pieces. You can place it on your fabric and create as many boning lines. So if you are creating boning lines here, we have boning line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so it means you'll be having 1, 2, 3 bonings, or you can create more for yourself. Okay, so that is it, and we have come to the end of this tutorial. So this is it. By the time you sew your corset, everything, you have your basque in place. Okay, so when sewing this, if you notice, because this is the under bust, if you notice that there is a shortage here, or you can just do this, because you can see, because of the curve we have here, definitely there will be a shortage. So what you will do is just blend it up immediately on your pattern, so you don't have issues when sewing. So I place my ruler back to the waistline, directly to where I have the backs, and I'll recreate the backs. So all the lines I have, I'm going to trim them off so it matches accordingly, and this does not affect anything at all, believe me. So now our Victorian corset is perfect to sew. So you also match up here, and if you notice there's any shortage, as I'm noticing here, just a little, I'll just go in this way and blend that little. It's not too much anyway, but you can just go ahead and blend it up. So I'll just trim off that little, and this does not affect anything as well. So what we are doing here is to make sure everything matches us for us. So by the time we sew this, we have a perfect dress. So I just place it like this. As you can see, this one comes in like this after sewing, as you can see, and that is how you are going to sew after your, of course, our Victorian corsets, we don't pad them. You sew them with your boning, okay, your Regline boning. So if you don't know how to sew your Victorian corset perfectly, we have so many classes on Telegram, which you can join us and learn different kinds of Victorian corsets. Okay, sewing, waist cinching technique, all about corsets, built up corsets, you know, building corsets, and corset with Basque and all that. We have a whole lot of corset class, so you can join us to learn that. So this is it. And then after sewing this, with your bonings, then you are going to use your breast cup for it. We have a breast cup called the shell cup. It's just very round and it's perfect for sewing Victorian corsets. So you can attach your bust cup. Then here is the yoke. After sewing this with your boning, you can now sew the yoke, which is with the same fabric with this. And finally, you have two of this on the left and the other on the right. Finally, you make your notch. Of course, you know where we cut this from, so you can see me aligning it, and you are going to sew or attach this on it, which is the illusion mesh. Then at the end of the upper bodice, the sleeve is your choice, and you will come in and add your 0.5 seam allowance on the lower piece and sew to the Victorian corset. And at the end of the day, you'll be having your ostrich feather. So the back piece is just very simple. You go straight the way you sew your corset backs. Any design you want to give, you want to make a yoke for it at the back, you can also make a yoke for it at the back. Okay, so let me draft the back. Okay, so in the next tutorial we'll be drafting the back, so stay tuned to learn how to draft the back.